Hey campers, Georgia, back in the man cave. The boss and I were having a production meeting, trying to come up with some idea. But you know what? I found I have an Opinel number 10. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. I'd done some stuff to the blade, but then I thought, got to work on the handle. So, let's check it out. The problem we're having in the production meeting is what to do next. Neither of us can come up with an idea on how to finish the project, but that's another story. More on that later. I took the number 10 and I got some stuff from a subscriber. We put it together. We had our usual ups and downs, but hey, we got it done. This is how we did it. So I started off by trying to figure out how to put the handle together. And I decided that I don't want to deal with the vibro lock. It's really difficult to make. I've struggled with it before, so I decided I was just going to cut off the top at the lock and then join the rest of it to that. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Not as easy to work with when you have a round thing like that. And then I was like, okay, I've got to cut this. And I started off using this saw, which has a really fine, clean cut to it. But it really struggled to get through the resin and the wood, the two different kinds. And of course, my table's not that solid. You can see it flexing everywhere. So I ended up going to a coping saw, and that worked pretty well. The problem with the coping saw is you can't put too much pressure on it because the blade bends. You'll see it later on. But I had to go slowly. You can see everything was bouncing around. This actually took me about 30 minutes to cut through. Yeah, nothing's easy for me anymore. And of course, I didn't know what to expect with the resin. Would it snap, chip, that sort of thing. So that was kind of hard to deal with. So, I was learning as I was going. You can see I was a little nervous at the end there. Now I'm cutting the handle off so that it'll match up to that angle that I cut on the resin swirl. This wasn't too bad. I think the wood on this, can't remember what they use. I'm going to say beech. It's fairly easy to cut. And, trying to get it to match exactly, I never get it perfect. I don't have a table saw or anything like that available to me. So cutting by hand, it's never perfect. Here's the first issue I came across. I wanted to come in really tight there and realize that to get it up right against the vibro lock area, I had to cut off those really tight angles. It actually worked out in the end. I didn't really have a choice because when you put the whole vibro lock together, it's a lot thicker than the rest, so that worked out. Now I had to come up with putting the gap in and how to do that. I found this wood. I'm going to say it's basswood, and I'm cutting out what would normally be a table saw cut through, if you know what I mean, through the handle so that the blade can go into the handle. I came up with this idea, just basically cut out a blank, cut out where the blade's going to sit, got it all lined up, kind of stared at it for a while and was hoping the glue was going to hold. and you couldn't really see it there. There you can see it there. There's a slight gap, and I had to figure out a way that I was going to fill that gap so that it wasn't obvious. The glue is clear, so it would have been, you would have still seen the gap. So of course, before gluing anything, you want to make sure the surface is clean, and then you rough it up so it gives it a little bit more surface area and binding. And the JB Weld clear. It's a resin type thing, so you mix equal quantities. And they were really adamant about stirring it together for a minimum of a minute. So you've got to give it a real good mix up here. Didn't mix up a lot. I didn't want to put a lot of glue on there. Got it all together. Senior moment. But we got it together the correct way, fortunately, before anything stuck. Couldn't figure out how to weight it down. One thing I have learned with working with Opinel handles, you have to support that cut in the handle. If you don't and you clamp it together, it will split the handle. Here I am figuring out a way to fill the gaps, and I got some white acrylic glue, paint, mixed it in the glue there, and I just left it to see if it was going to actually bind. It's bound the nail to the piece of wood, so I decided to use that. You're going to cleaning off there, going to glue it all together now, and then fill in the gaps with the colored glue. This is just the plain glue, getting the whole thing put together. Didn't want too much glue because you don't want it, going into the gaps when you squeeze it all together. And with this glue, you don't have to have a bunch. And then, of course, lining it up, making sure that the blade is sitting in that little cutout. Here you can see the white, how the white actually worked with the glue. And now you can see where I put it, right at the top there, and around where there was a gap. You can see it there. And, I was hoping that when you file it down, it won't show. This is a project I've been working on forever. It's a fixed blade Scout knife, and I've been using Gorilla Glue. 5 times I've put this handle together, and 5 times it has fallen apart. So I'm hoping the JB Weld will work. Here it is all together, all dried up. Great thing about this glue, you put it on, it sets in 5 minutes, and in just over an hour you can work with it. Now I've got to trim all that excess stuff off. Here you can see the blade bending as I'm cutting. So just cut off all the excess. Didn't want to cut too much off. Wasn't really sure what the handle shape was going to be, and of course if you take too much off you can't put it back. Then the filing started, and here we go, getting all that excess down. And here you can see it here. What I was trying to figure out here was where the nail neck was when the blade was in the handle, because I had to put a dip there. So I had to stop, make myself a cup of espresso. Love this thing. Can take it down to the workshop, batteries charged, and makes you some espresso. Pretty cool. Espresso break. Yeah, we got ambulances going by, I'm sorry. And back to filing. Now you can see here I was filing the edges of the resin. Any sharp edge and you filing it chips. So I figured out if I just curl it a little bit on the sharp edges, it didn't chip. So I had to do that a lot. Finally got down to where I needed to be so the nail nick was working. And then went to work with some 80 grit sandpaper to start rounding everything off. Because it was still fairly square. And I wanted a lot more rounded off handle. And I poked myself. The blade was sticking up and wasn't paying attention and went to go and file and stab myself. So got that out of the way. That's a normal. Back to filing and sanding. A lot, because there was a lot of excess on it. And here we go. Another always happens. It came apart. I was really surprised with that the resin in the wood came apart. Glued it all back together, started sanding it, and you can see it's a lot rounder than it was before. Got it to where I wanted, dusted it off and everything, and gonna put mineral oil on it. You know, if you watch here, it's one thing about doing this, the mineral oil just really makes the wood pop. You can see it happening here. It's not going to really do much for the acrylic because it can't soak into that, but it really brings out the wood. You have to put a couple of coats on. The idea is you keep putting it on until it stops soaking in, and then you're good. And you should do that with all your wood handles. At least once a year, give it a coating after your initial full soak. Keeps the wood, stops it from cracking and that sort of thing. It really does a good job and brings out you can see the grain there, how it really pops. So now we've got to put it all together. First thing you've got to do is clean the blade up, because it had tape on it and all that good stuff, and you know, the residual glue. Had to get it all off, just used some alcohol. Cleaned it up. And here you can see, this was the patina spots I did originally with this thing a while ago, just after I got the knife. Just using my pokey to line up the holes, because it's a pretty fine setup. And now I've got my pin, I'm just tapping it in to get it through, round off the one edge. And then, of course, cut it off and sit there and just tap it. I use my pin hammer. Doesn't need a lot of force. These pins are pretty soft. So you just want to round it off so it's not going to come out. And it needs to stick up a little so that it works on the vibrolock in that raised area there. And that keeps the vibrolock all together. And yeah, just testing it. Making sure that it does work. Does it lock? Yep. Does it open? Yeah. All very exciting. Is it locked tight? Yeah. So looking good. We're all set, I think. So there you are. Couple of ups and downs. The usual. I managed to poke myself. That's a given. And the handle fell apart. That's a given. I don't know what to tell you about me and handles right now. That camp knife, scout knife I'm trying to build. 5 times I've tried to put that handle together. And I finally got me some JB Weld, the clear stuff. That stuff is awesome. So it worked really well on this. And so I decided I'm probably going to put it on that, and that'll get that one finished. That's only taken months. Here it is here. And you can see it there. Interesting project. A little bit more work than I thought it would be. I didn't really plan it well. Our production planning wasn't as good as it should be. I should have trimmed the block down before I really put it together. But I wasn't sure of the sizing, and I really didn't want to mess up. So I just thought I'd do it the long way, the hard way. Again, I'm glad I did that. Because I think that if it had come apart when I had it already trimmed down, it would have been a total loss. So, like I said, here it is. This is an Opinel number 10. You can see there. I got this number 10 because I just wanted to look at it. I'm a number 9 fan. It fits me well. This is not too bad for me, but you can see how long the handle is. So if you have big hands, a number 10 will probably suit you better. Yeah, my hands, it's still soaking up. I've put a couple of coats of mineral oil on it because it needs a couple of coats. You've got to keep adding coats until it stops soaking in. Then you're good. I think I put 4 coats on. I'm actually thinking about, once it settles, putting acrylic on it. I think the acrylic will bring this out more, give it more of a cleaner shine, because, you know, if you look carefully, you can still see scratch marks no matter how fine I went with the sandpaper. I like this project. It was very satisfying. When I was cleaning it up and shaping the handle and I saw it pop, I was like, oh, no. The other problem I had to be really careful about was, you know, I had a lot of material to get rid of, so I was using a fairly aggressive rasp. And when I first started, I noticed that the resin chipped, broke off. So I had to figure that out. So what I did was I got a finer, regular file and got rid of any sharp edges. I kind of rounded it off on the edges and then filed it down, rounded off. And that stopped the chipping. So if you're going to do this, you've got to be careful of that. I'm not sure what glue they used to put it together. I was kind of surprised it came apart. But we got it back together, and, you know, you can see it here. Pretty cool. Came out pretty good. Everything came together. The reason I didn't do a whole handle on it was because of this. I've done that before, and I struggled horribly with it. It was, I couldn't get it right, and then I got it a little bit too small. So that's why I decided to just cut it. It had wood on the back, so I figured wood on this side wouldn't be a problem. I thought about putting them together without this wood piece in the middle. I wasn't sure if I had the tools or the know-how to dig out so that we'd have this gap. I have a problem with that. I've got to figure out how to do that. But I kind of like the way it looks with that line. It kind of gives it some character. And the shape, I didn't have any particular shape in mind. I wanted a rounded, I like that round off edge on the back, the dip. I think it makes a huge difference. So I went along with it. My biggest concern was the nail neck. I wanted to make sure that I could get that dip in the right place for the nail neck to pull it out. Had to have that. I really didn't want to have to cut a nail neck in. I can do that. I just can't do it well yet. Got to work on that. Everything works on it. The lock works perfectly, obviously, because I used the original. This wood is pretty cool. Look at that. I don't know what wood it is. There was no information as to what wood they used or anything in the package. So I like this swirly thing. Maybe I should think about doing that with some resin. I had to fill in some gaps. And so what I did was I took the JB Clear Weld and I mixed some white acrylic paint with it. Not very much, just enough to make it a little bit wider. You can barely see it. You have to look really close to even notice that I did that. You can't see it. And that filled in a lot of the gaps. So I like that idea, and I'm thinking maybe if I mix a whole bunch of resin, put some paint on and swirl it, some paint, and swirl it and let it sit. It'll dry and cut it up and make another handle.
different colors. I don't know, maybe that'll work. Anyway, here it is, number 10. There it is, closed, and it's unlocked. Open it up and lock it up. And there you go. And you can see, originally, this is all I did with it a while ago. I was trying out that mustard to make these marks on it. And it was one of my first tests I did. It actually came out better than I thought it would, as those like bubble things on it. You can do more. I've seen people do more. They start with small bubbles, and then they do it again with bigger bubbles and maybe not leave it as long. And it makes a pretty cool pattern. But I was just trying out this patina with mustard. And it works pretty well. Didn't change the blade at all. I thought for a change, I won't mess with the blade. We'll keep it original. You can see it's an Opinel. It is a carbon steel. Came out pretty cool. The production meeting we were having when you came in, Mary had walked out in disgust because I just cannot come up with an idea for the sheath. It's going to need a special sheath, and I've been kind of experimenting if I could get a color, but I can't. The color's not the same. The greens I have are just, and they don't have many greens. So, and I thought about making a nice sheath and coloring the sheath, but I'll see. And I wanted to make the sheath different. That's the other story. So there you go. Opinel with the resin handle, and kind of like the way it came out. Like I said, took a lot of elbow grease, but we got there. My Opie modified with the resin handle. Very nice. Just got to come up with that sheath. I feel like I'm getting somewhere now. I'm learning every time I do this. And now that I've found a glue that I know that works, I can do a lot more with the handle. That JB Weld Clear is awesome. It sets in like 5 minutes. And you can work on it after about an hour. You will be safe out there, especially when you're doing this stuff. Otherwise, you'll end up like me with Band-Aids everywhere. Just saying. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You know the story. Pretty sure I'll be back again. Mary and I have been in the production meetings. We've got a couple of things. I have some more Opinel ideas that I've been thinking about while I was doing this. I have a lot of leftover parts or Opinels, and I'm thinking I can come up with a couple of different ones, and want to try some different sheaths and all that good stuff. I love working on this stuff, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Always appreciate it. We'll see you again soon. Bye.